you can't really have anything nice here in Colorado Springs. So if you're somebody that doesn't have a garage, and you're parking on the street, your car is in jeopardy of getting destroyed. Investors that can buy it like within a week for $20,000, $30,000 over what the house is worth, much more reasonable. It's really becoming very bougie and extremely overrun with transplants. This is going to offend some people. So you are thinking about moving to Colorado Springs. Well, hold on a second. It's not all cupcakes and candy corn here. There's definitely some negatives and drawbacks about living here that you really need to know about, especially if you're coming from California, Texas, Florida, or New York. So in this video, I'm gonna be giving you the inside scoop into living here and why a lot of people are leaving Colorado Springs. So sit tight because we're getting after it next. Colorado Springs has changed a lot over the last couple of years. When I did a video up here a few years back, I was saying that Colorado Springs was this amazing place to live and it's like this small town vibe. Well, it's darn near like a mini California now. Not exactly, but it's really becoming very bougie and extremely overrun with transplants. It takes more than 20 minutes to get anywhere in Colorado Springs now. I mean, I'm sitting in traffic constantly, especially on CO21 Powers Corridor, just trying to get home. I mean, if you hit rush hour traffic between about 9 and 10 in the morning and 4:30 to 6 in the evening, you're gonna be waiting in traffic. And I think that it's not the city's fault necessarily, it's just that Colorado Springs has grown so much over the last couple of years that the infrastructure that's in place is not sufficient to support all the people that are here now. We're approaching, by some estimations, to be at about 750,000 people in El Paso County and Colorado Springs in general. So another thing is kind of weird is Colorado Springs doesn't have a loop, like a freeway loop around the perimeter of the city. We pretty much just have I-25 running north to south through the middle of the city. And so we didn't really need a loop before, but now I feel like we do. So we're trying to do some, different strides to try to step up the amount of ways to get through in and around the city. But I think we're still 15 years off from being able to travel throughout Colorado Springs at the rate that we're growing. So another con is this is going to offend some people. So I'm just giving you a disclaimer right now that this is just my own personal experience after living in Colorado Springs for just over 10 years now. The people in Colorado Springs are very nice and friendly, but we don't really have a sense of community here. Let me explain, because a lot of community directors or churches or what have you might be very annoyed and frustrated with that statement, but here's my opinion to support that. Because Colorado Springs is considered a military town, I mean, we have Fort Carson, Schriever Air Force Base, Peterson Air Force Base, NORAD, we have Space Force here, we have the Air Force Academy. That is a lot of military servicemen and women that are here in Colorado Springs, which is great. The only issue with that though is that a lot of times the military are moving in and out of our city, I would say on average every 3 to 5 years or so. So anybody that's here that's supporting Colorado Springs from a different state, whether you're a teacher or a doctor or somebody that is, serving the public, you might be amazing at what you do, but you're gonna only be here for a few years. If you're attached to the military, if you have a spouse that's in the military, you're gonna be going off to a different part of the country and leaving that void in the city. And so I've just grown accustomed to making friends with people, but also knowing that they're not gonna be here probably very much longer. My wife gets upset about this all the time because friends that she makes, which a lot of them happen to be in the military or have a spouse in the military, once they tell her, they start hanging out or whatever, and she finds out that they're military, they tell her, we're only gonna be here for another year. And she just made like this amazing lifelong friend, just to come to find out they're only gonna be here for another year. Doesn't mean that you can't have a friend and, you know, be in a different state or whatever like that. But just like our kids' ages, you know, 5 to 7, you know, play dates, and, you know, the parents having children to play with each other and stuff like that, that usually or can break away and change from one year to the next. Also, we've noticed that our boys, when they go to school, you know, from one school year to the next, very likely that a lot of the teachers don't continue to the next year. They are married to military serviceman or woman, and all of a sudden they're getting PCS'd out. They have a new duty station. They are not coming back and re-upping and being a teacher again that next year. They're out. And so we see a lot of substitute teachers in our schools here. We see a lot of teachers that are just getting hired. They're trying to fill the need, because if there's a huge rush of people that move to Colorado Springs, bring their kids, they need to have a place for the kids to go to school. But then at the same token, a lot of times they're short-staffed and they're scrambling to hire substitutes, and it's just a big mess in my experience. Next thing I wish I would have known before moving here is our homeless problem. I am very sensitive to this because, like any human being, you never want to see somebody down and out and going through stuff, right? Like, it's not, you know, enough to just be like, oh, stay away from me. You know, you got to have some empathy, and I do have empathy with people. I know that there's people out there that are struggling, but let me be more specific when I say homeless people and panhandling people. There's two categories. This is just my opinion. The first category is people that are on the side of the road, that are in front of Target or Costco, not even in front, like they're on one of those like road, like the islands, you know, you're in the turning lane, trying to turn left, you know, the freeway or whatever, and there's a guy sitting right there, standing right there with a sign. That's like a panhandler. I don't know if he's homeless or not. Okay, so that's the first category. He may or may not have a home, but he's choosing, or by circumstance, spending his time asking for money, hoping that somebody gives him some handouts, okay? So that's the first type of person that we run into. Again, I'm trying to be very sensitive with this statement because I have empathy for people that are going through tough times. Now that I've said that, let me be clear. What I have a problem with is when there's people on the side of the road or in a parking lot and they're approaching you asking for money, or they're holding a sign that says something about, I need money, I need to eat, I lost my job, what have you. Problem I have is when a grown adult hops on a electric scooter and moves his position from one intersection to another and takes up a spot across the street. And he looks like he's wearing like nicer sunglasses than I am. Wow. And like a nice parka, and he's riding like a couple $100 electric scooter. The dude's just sitting on the scooter, like going like through the crosswalk and across the street to the other place to panhandle. And I was just sitting there at a red light watching this dude. Like, he was over here asking for money. He gets on his nice, very nice scooter, electric scooter. It's not like one of them kick scooters, like he's like, you know, manually doing it. He's like riding this little scooter across the thing, and then he parks his scooter, kicks the kickstand down, leans it up against the side of the road, gets his little bucket, sits on it, and starts putting his sign up again. I don't know. Maybe he's going through some stuff, you know, some health issues or whatnot, and he can't walk, so he needs to have a really nice scooter. I just saw that and was like, I'm trying not to judge. Maybe he's going through some stuff, but it seems like, you know, there shouldn't be people panhandling at all. There should be support. Now, the city has put on these stop signs and like yield signs and stuff. They've put on the back of them, if you see panhandlers, don't give them money, call this number and let us come out and provide them with support, get them into some programs or what have you. And I think that's a good idea. The other thing that happens is my wife is a bleeding heart. She's always seeing people panhandling, and she rolls down her window and she gives people money. I mean, she was just getting like Cane's Chicken, like the chicken store, Chicken Shack, you know, buying some chicken for dinner. And she gave like all that family, like all the food that she just bought, and then just went back through the takeout line, the drive-through line. They were really happy and appreciative of that. But she's a bleeding heart. She's just rolling her window down nonstop, giving people money, giving people chicken apparently. And that's great. But I was just telling her, what happens if somebody pulls out a gun and robs you? You're trying to do the right thing and you end up becoming a victim. Plus you have my 7-year-old and my 5-year-old in the back seat. And that's the kind of stuff that could happen when somebody is in a situation that's not stable. And so I told her, although I appreciate you having a bleeding heart, you need to look after your own livelihood in life because you just never know with people. And that's just what I said to her. And she's like, yeah, donate to charity, give money, donate your time. But those one-offs, I just think it's kind of dangerous personally. Any of you guys with your wives or girlfriends, I don't know if you would urge them to do that. Maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't. But my position of it was it's dangerous. You know, you have to look after your 5 and your 7-year-old in the back seat. Also, that goes back to the people here. The people here are very, how should I say this? Very like rustic people. It's funny because I've been to other places in the country and I've even heard of people telling me this, like when you go out to eat or out to a restaurant, you kind of dress up and you know, you're coming from church to where you're all dressed up. You know, these women wear these fancy hats and you dress to the nines, you got your cufflinks in, your dress shoes and everything. Not here. Mark, that's really mean to say that everyone's a slob here. I didn't say everyone's a slob here. People dress okay, but it's not fashion. There's no sense of fashion whatsoever here. People just kind of roll out of bed, they put some sweats on and they go out to the grocery store, to church, anywhere. Public, cool, totally cool. Like as if they could care less about how they look. And it's crazy. You don't believe me. If you know some people that live here, have them take some pictures of people walking around. See for yourself. I was at church not too long ago and I swear I could never remember seeing so many jerseys, sports jerseys and sports parkas and jackets in church like ever in my life. There's nothing wrong with sports. I'm a big sports fan, a big sports nut, but like, can't you just wear like a jacket? Like a regular dress jacket or a regular shirt or a button up or anything? You gotta wear like your favorite football team to church? Huh? I don't know, maybe it's just me, but like, I was just kind of looking at these people like, did you come from like tailgate party? Like, you know, you're in church. Everyone's different. It's not like a bad thing. It's not knocking anybody. And they're at church, that's all that matters. They're there trying to be the best person they can be. That's great. That's the next thing about Colorado Springs is the volatile weather. We've got brutal cold winters. We've got hail, which can come down at a moment's notice. It could be a perfectly clear blue day like it is today and sky is blue. There could be clouds can roll in within a matter of minutes. And then all of a sudden, if it's certain times of the year, atmosphere is warm, but there's a cold front that blows in, all of a sudden that rain starts turning into hail and it could destroy your car, a fence, easily, the side of your house. I mean, I've driven through some of these neighborhoods after a hailstorm and it looks like World War III. It looks like a war zone that just popped off within like 48 hours, 24 hours. You'll have like house after house after house after house with just like peppered with holes on the side of the siding or the stucco. You've got fences that are completely look like Swiss cheese because hail the size of like golf balls went, 50 miles an hour through that fence, through that. Anything that's plastic, it just gets destroyed. Windshields get destroyed, cars get dented up. So if you're somebody that doesn't have a garage and you're parking on the street, your car is in jeopardy of getting destroyed. That sounds really dramatic, Mark, like it's not that bad. It's bad enough. You only need to have a hailstorm once every year or two. So put it in perspective. So the time I've lived here, about 10 years, I remember about 4 hailstorms. So one every other year, that has a potential of destroying one of 3 things: your property, your car, or hurting yourself. If you're out in it and if you're just like, you're out walking around and hail starts coming down, that could really hurt you. So that goes back to my opinion, brutal weather here. Man, I could go deep with this because I always deal with this. I have clients that fly in all the time and they're like, Mark, like they almost sound like they don't want to offend me. One of my most recent clients, she's really sweet. We were just, looking at houses and we were walking through the neighborhoods and stuff. And she was like, Mark, is it always like this? And I go, I think I know what you're talking about, but what do you mean? Always like what? Is the landscaping and everything does it always look like this? And I go, this is like, in the wintertime, but it's brown. It's brown here. The majority of the year. So spring, it starts turning green. It takes about a month or two. Summer, for the summer months, June, July, August. But anytime during that time, you could have hail, you could have wind, crazy windstorms. I've been woken up many times. I'll be sleeping like a baby. And all of a sudden, I just start hearing this, the side of my house rattling, and it's like the wind is blowing up in one of the eaves, the vents, up in my roof line or whatever, and just making all kinds of noise. And you can see patio furniture being blown 5, 10 houses down through your neighbor, and they're like, they don't even know whose it is. They're like, somebody's missing some lawn furniture. You got to go from house to house. Like, have you seen my lawn furniture? 4 or 5 houses down. Oh yeah, it's next to our house, or it's on our lawn, in our backyard. So I've seen that happen. So again, weather here is nothing to play with. I tell people this all the time. They don't believe me. They get here, they live here for a few years, and it gets kind of old after a while. Roof claims. If you own a home here, people replace their roofs once a year. You should. I mean, if you have hail damage on your roof, any roof estimator is gonna go out there and be like, yeah, those shingles are dented up, you need a new roof. So you gotta go through an insurance claim and you gotta get a new roof. It's not a big deal. I mean, it's just taking care of your stuff, but that's what I mean by destroying property, is roofs, windows. Another thing that happens a lot, and this is a lot more expensive, and no one talks about this as much, but when hail comes down and it destroys a roof, that's one thing that's pretty easy to get replaced with through insurance, right? That's what you have homeowners insurance for in the first place. But what about windows and window seals? What about all the frame of your window? You might not have a broken window, but if hail comes down and hits the window seal, the trim around your window, that could make your windows start failing, which means the double paned window has a gas inside of it, and that gas can start leaking out. Heel was like a air pocket, air bubble. Think of like somebody putting a tack or a needle in there, and then eventually that air will leak out. That's what happens with windows. When hail, big, rock size hail hits window sills, it'll make the window seal fail basically. And so then all of a sudden now your windows fog up. You're like, man, that window was clear. I knew I just cleaned that window the other day. Why can't I see through it? Well, because there's all kinds of condensation inside of 2-pane window. No gas is in there anymore. And so condensation builds up and you have cloudy windows. So guess what? They need to be replaced. Can you still see through them? Kind of, but they're not broken. But that's one of the things that being a homeowner you got to deal with too when there's hail, which I said like before, it's once every couple years. But if and when it happens, it destroys stuff. So you can't have nice stuff here. If you have, some nice electric car, some nice Tesla, you're cleaning it all the time, making sure the rims are nice and clean. As soon as that hail comes down, that car could be destroyed. I've outran 2 hailstorms. I had 2, at the time, very fast cars. And I felt like I was on like that movie Twister, where there was a storm I was trying to get in front of. I was like literally driving, trying to get alongside this storm and get in front of it and pass it. And I did both times. The first time I outran it, I got ahead of traffic and all the traffic got stuck in the hailstorm and probably destroyed a bunch of cars. But I was in front of that traffic. I got onto the freeway just in time before it started backing up, and I was able to basically outrun the storm. The second time, I felt like the storm was just coming my way. And so what I ended up doing was getting off the freeway and pulling into a gas station with one of those covered awnings. And I was probably sitting underneath that awning for like at least an hour. There was one spot left. There was probably 25 cars underneath this awning. So everyone was getting gas. They weren't going anywhere. They were staying right there. This hail was just coming down. And I ran into one of my real estate buddies who was getting gas as well. So I was like, we just ended up talking the entire time and just looking out and just being like, man, it's Colorado. So I'm here to tell you that if you have a really nice car, like let's say like a classic car, like some Camaro or Chevelle or some Mustang or just any kind of car, like Impala, I don't know what you have, but you have some nice classic 57 Chevy car that's all chromed out and it's all metal and everything and you love it, don't bring that here. You're not gonna be happy with. Don't leave that at home or park it in the garage. Do not bring that out because chances are that car is gonna get destroyed by hail. If the hail doesn't get you, then these bad roads will get you. You're gonna be driving over potholes, bending up your rims constantly. So the roads aren't that much better either. Next thing I'm gonna say about roads is there's a lot of grit and rocks and dirt here. So when you drive these roads, you could get out of that car wash, like go to Classic Car Wash, or we go to Duck, the Quick Quack. And my wife's, it's like she loves going in there and getting her car. Me, I never run my car through a car wash. I always hand wash it. But I'll spend, 30, 45 minutes cleaning my car, washing my car, cleaning my wheels and everything. And you might have your car nice for maybe 2 or 3 days. And you'll either get hail, rain, wind, dirt and dust it just accumulates on the roads. You got all this dust and dirt that accumulates on the roads, and that stuff gets kicked up constantly. Another thing is rocks. There's lots of rocks on the road, and you have to replace your windshield here on your car constantly. That's just me. I mean, I have to replace my windshield all the time because rocks are constantly hitting it. So you notice when you get here, you'll look around and you see these cars with windshields that are damaged up, shattered, broken, cracked. You don't believe me? Anybody that you know in Colorado Springs, ask them to take a picture of their windshield and send it to you. And I guarantee 7 out of 10 times they got some cracks in their windshield. Yeah, you can just replace it, Mark. That's what car insurance is for. Yeah, but it'll happen again in a week or a month. You know, it happens multiple times a year. So if you go a full year without having anything damaged on your windshield, you're lucky. It's just a matter of time. You're lucky there. So again, you can't have anything nice here. Landscaping, your home itself, a lot of routine maintenance. Your car, a lot of routine maintenance, potholes, grit and dirt and rocks on the roads, and hail and just debris on the roads. I think really just ends up making cars here wear a lot more than they should. Now, that being said, it's not as bad as back east where they use salt on the roads. I don't know if they still do that or not. I would imagine they do, but that's even worse because if it's something where salt gets on your car and it chews up the metal, that's really bad. So we don't have that. I'm glad. That would be even worse. The snow here does fall, but it melts very quickly because we're a mile high above sea level. We're closer to the sun, I guess. And so when snow does fall, it doesn't accumulate. It kind of falls. We'll get a couple of inches here and there throughout the winter months, and then it kind of melts away. So it's nice that happens. So again, I hope I've convinced you, not scared you, but at least convinced you that if you have a lot of nice, fancy, classic stuff, like ornate, fancy stuff, just leave it at home. Don't bring it, put it in the garage, take care of it because the weather here is crazy. Hey, my name is Mark Davis and I help folks move and relocate to Colorado Springs. And so whether that's 90 days or 9 months from now, please give us a call. My team and I get contacted from folks all over the country and we absolutely love it. So reach out, give us a shout, shoot us a text, DM us, email us, or just give us a phone call. We'd love to help you make a smooth transition to Colorado Springs. Next is housing. Housing. This is directly aligned with my business. I am a realtor. I help people buy and sell homes. And I would say over the last 5 years, the prices have gone up in some areas like 50%. I know that sounds crazy, but 5-6 years ago, a house that was $250 is like $400,000 or $500,000 now. And it's really crazy because you think, man, is this house worth double in 5 years? A lot of people know it's not, but that doesn't mean it's not going up in price. And have they done any special improvements? No, I mean, there's that much of a demand. And so now that the interest rates are much higher than they've been over the past few years, or the trajectory has been increasingly going up in terms of pricing as well as demand, it's creating quite a market dilemma. And now people are spending so much more for homes here than they were before. The biggest recent issue and trend that we're seeing is these interest rates. Now they're going up and they've been going up for quite a while now, a year, 2 years. And so homes that were $250 are now $500, and that was fine when the rates were 2% and 3% because people didn't feel it. Now, a $500,000 house actually feels like a $500,000 house. I don't know if that makes sense. When the rates were low, a $500,000 house felt like a $300,000 house. They were so common. People were like, oh yeah, $500,000? No problem. Like, I'll just qualify. The payment's like not much more than what I'm used to paying in rent. Matter of fact, it's maybe even less than what I was paying in rent. $500, and you get a house, and you get a house, and everyone was just buying these houses. Now, it's much different. Homes feel like they should. Like, I gotta save up money and buy a house, and it's like a big deal. It's like an investment. And it's like, wow, this is much more expensive, but it's gonna pay off in the long run kind of thing. Or I'm ready to step out and actually become a homeowner from renting. You have to have much stronger desire now to own a home amidst the way that the market is, with homes being as expensive as they are and interest rates being as high as they are. We did need a market correction. I don't think 1.5% or 2% or 2.5% was gonna last forever. But now that the rates are in the 6s and 7s, people are really being more prudent and thinking much longer about their decisions on owning and finding the right home. And so in some ways, that's a good thing. In a lot of ways, that's a good thing. Now, if you made it this far and you're still considering moving to Colorado Springs and you wanna know more about what Colorado Springs has to offer, then start by subscribing to the channel. Hit that little bell notification button so you never miss out. And as always, my friends, until next time, Mark out.